Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. 870-275-9799. That is the telephone number if you would like to contribute to the program. Hey, joining us now, I want to welcome. We have Mr. Mark West is with us. Mark is a Libertarian candidate for governor, and he's on the phone. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me on, Paul. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you announced, what was it, yesterday, the day before?
Now it's Monday night. Yes, sir.
Monday night. Okay, Monday night. Well, so tell us. I want to get into the Libertarian Party of Arkansas here in just a moment, but just tell us why you, Mark West, why have you decided to run for governor of the state of Arkansas?
Well, I think you've spent the first half hour of your program describing why I, Mark West, am running for governor of Arkansas. Our governor, who's supposed to be a conservative, had a press conference today, and he practically begged Senate Republicans in Washington, D.C. to act like Democrats and give him a bailout. He seems to like the swampy water of D.C., and he wants to bring it to Arkansas, and true conservatives need an option to vote for in the upcoming election, and I want to give them that option. I want to give them an option to place their vote in if they're tired of the bullying politics that Asa has employed in this state against Republicans, against Democrats, as far as pressuring people to, withholding funding for certain types of bills in order to get people to vote for internet taxes and things like that. It's shameful to me what's happened in the governor's office since he's been there, considering that he has, he is supposed to be the conservative. He campaigned against these things, and he has pushed them since he's been governor. And the voters in Arkansas deserve to have a real choice on the ballot. And right now, I'm in there as the one true conservative voice as far as fiscal government is concerned. Yeah, they don't have that otherwise.
Well, at this point, I would have to agree with you. I have heard from so many conservatives. They Facebook message me. It's in the comments of our Facebook, and they say that they're not going to vote for Asa. And many of our text messages are wanting, I've asked about another option. But, I've had some that just say, I'm going to vote for a Democrat because you might as well. Because at least then you know what you're getting. And, so there's a ton of frustration out there among the grassroots of folks who don't agree with where Asa has taken us, especially when you compare what his campaign rhetoric was about what the Second Amendment says, his opposition to Obamacare, school choice, and all of these things that he campaigned on, and then you look at the results. And I was down there at the Marble Palace, Mark, and I saw there's official accounts, and then there's what the people on the ground, the lobbyists, people will tell you what really happened. And so you got a lot of these issues that a lot of people don't know about. So talk a little bit about you mentioned the Republican Party. Now, from a libertarian standpoint, have you noticed that there are conservative Republicans who are I don't know, they're not really very high up on the governor's list? What do you think about that?
I have noticed that there are a lot that are not sold on Governor Hutchinson. They don't buy and they don't believe in the brand of what he calls conservatism that he's brought to the governor's to the office of governor. Libertarian, our philosophy is a free market philosophy. We are also a fiscally, conservative philosophy. We want to work to streamline the government. We don't want to make it bigger. And that was the reason so many people pushed to get Republicans in office and get, a governor like Asa, was to keep this private option, this Medicaid expansion from coming to Arkansas, because the voters in Arkansas, they're smart, they're informed, and they know how budgets work. They know that in order to pay for something like this, the money has to come from somewhere. And basically, Asa told us today that and even though, he said, we would have to raise taxes, but we're not going to do that. And we'll have to cut benefits, but we're not going to do that. So we're going to basically beg the federal government to bail us out. And that is not Arkansas. We are the sovereign state of Arkansas. The 10th Amendment empowers us to be a sovereign state. We should not have a governor who is willing to make us dependent on the whims of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it's kind of like
voters in Arkansas are frustrated about that.
It's kind of like he doesn't want to come out and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have done this. And I don't necessarily think he believes that. I mean, I think there's all the evidence out there in the world is like, hey, we shouldn't have expanded this program, 300,000 able-bodied adults. They're not entitled to free health insurance. I don't necessarily know if he believes that, though. I think he actually believes that it's now our responsibility to adopt what Washington, D.C. has told us, and that's now a new concept of government, which is everybody is responsible by law for everybody else's health care coverage. Do you think that that's the truth?
No, that's not the truth. But that is ACE's truth.
Right,
ACE's
that's what I meant.
Truth is what works in D.C. should work in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And the people in Arkansas don't agree with him. And I hear that in places that I go, conservatives that I talk to. People are frustrated with D.C. politics. I mean, Donald Trump just won the presidency because people are frustrated with D.C. politics and they want somebody to bust it up. Well, D.C. politics is going on in Little Rock right now, and voters need to it's time to vote for an outsider. Send someone to Little Rock who really wants to legitimately break up the system, that legitimately wants to run things different, and who's not afraid of these people. They're, I'm not on anybody's payroll. I'm not getting special interest money. I don't have, I'm not out trying to establish PACs to push my candidates in primaries. I am here for the people of Arkansas to have a voice in Little Rock again, because as of right now, Governor Hutchinson has hijacked the people's voice in Little Rock, and he's basically a mouthpiece for D.C. And now, in his mind, D.C. is going to betray him by passing this the reconciliation bill is what they're calling it now in the Senate, where they're looking to phase this out, and he doesn't know where the money's going to come from, and he's trying to pass the buck to D.C. and trying to make it where we're blaming D.C. for his mistake of pushing this and fighting for it when he shouldn't have, when he should have taken a good approach that empowered people and empowered local communities and empowered the free market. Instead, he chose not to, and chose to empower and grow the size of the government in Little Rock. And the voters need to hold him accountable for it.
We're talking with Mark West. He's a Libertarian candidate for governor here in the state of Arkansas. Mark, talk a little bit about, kind of refresh our audience with who you are. You live in Batesville. You're a pastor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I've been a bivocational minister for about 15 years, and that's just a fancy word that says I work a full-time job and I pastor a church. So,
well, good for you.
But I also work. Yeah, it's a calling. It's not something that you just step into. But I also work for a company called Mechanical Construction Services. I've run the corporate office for 10 years. We work in the power industry. We send crews all over the country doing shutdowns and maintenance and things of that nature, and I handle all of our licensing, taxes, payroll, billing, just the whole plethora. So I get to deal with government all day. So going to work every day makes me realize just how much we need to reduce the size of our government so that small businesses like the one I work for can thrive and grow and create the jobs that we need in this economy. The high-paying jobs aren't going to be your Bernie Sanders type, impose a $15 minimum wage. Your high-paying jobs are going to come when small businesses are set free from all the regulation that strangles them and that corners the market for the giant corporations. And that's what I stand for. I stand for making this a better place for the middle class, for the working class people that are just struggling, every week trying to make sure you've got enough money to pay the bills and make ends meet and get your kids in school. And I've been married for 20 years to a wonderful woman named Christy. I've got 3 children. My oldest is Matthew, and then Caleb is my middle child. He's 13. And then my daughter Micaiah is 11. And we're all kind of having a family venture this summer. The Batesville Community Theater is doing Shrek the Musical, and we're all going to be in it the last week of July. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy month for us.
Well, you guys break a leg, okay? You got to say break a leg. You don't want to wish the other thing. because that's not good luck.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we're talking with Mark West, a Libertarian candidate for Arkansas governor. So as somebody who obviously appreciates the freedom that we have to exercise our religion in the First Amendment, free from government interference. Talk a little bit about if you have seen any corporate influences on the current leadership down there. And specifically what I mean is back in 2015, we had the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which was really just trying to mirror what had already been passed in D.C., a decade ago. And, the way the story goes is, the LGBT crowd, they decided to characterize this as discriminatory. Corporations called down to the Capitol, one big Arkansas one in particular, yada, 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 a bill that Asa supported all the way essentially to his desk. He said needed to be rewritten. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't follow that bill particularly, but I do stand for religious freedom. I do believe that you should have what I call the freedom of association, regardless of whether you're a business or another entity, where you can, you have the freedom to choose what you're going to associate with, whether you're associating your business with something or you're associating your person with something that extends to, your religious activities. You should have the full freedom to express your religious activities and have the freedom to hold your religious consciences, in the workplace or, in the marketplace or wherever you go. You should be able to hold those religious consciences, and that's what I believe the First Amendment is designed to protect. And and that, that would be where I would stand on that.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's exactly right. You get into these situations, the florist, the cake baker, and this type of stuff, and that's why the LGBT crowd, they were saying, hey, this is discriminatory. And so I'm glad when you specifically say freedom in the marketplace, freedom in the workplace, freedom
Right.
in the marketplace. It's really good because I went down there, I did some man on the street interviews, and with the protesters, I was there with them, and I got some of these guys to admit, okay, well, let's take your argument to a doctor, and let's say this doctor is opposed to doing abortion because he believes that abortion is taking a human life. Their response was, well, you should have thought about that before you decided to become a doctor. And
yeah, I've heard that argument, but it doesn't fly. I mean, when you go to provide a service, you see a need in the community that you're providing a service for, and to deny a service is just, it is just part of the basic right that you have as a business owner. The no shirt, no shoes, no service. We've had those type of things in businesses for years. You have the right to deny certain services. And what you will have the impact of, and what you should have the impact of, is if people get mad enough at you for not providing service to a particular group, then they boycott you, and they can go use another business or go try another doctor. It is a complete invasion of someone's rights to force them to perform a service for you. That's conscription. That's slavery, and we left those days supposedly a long time ago. We don't live in those days anymore.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And you get to a point where you either agree with us or you're not allowed to have a business, and that's that's so dangerous, Mark, isn't it? I mean, and think about this: people on the left, whether we're shooting Steve Scalise or whether we're burning down Berkeley or whether we're knocking down a Ten Commandment statue, people on the left they seem to. We seem to be approaching a time that could lead to some really where danger and violence is a lot more common just based on your political affiliation than a lot of people may even think. We could never possibly get there, but I think tensions are really ratcheting up. What are your thoughts on the climate right now?
I agree. The political climate it's in bad shape. It has been for several years, and unfortunately, and this is the thing. This is why I think we need to keep as much of D.C. out of Arkansas politics as we can, because in D.C. what happens is somebody on the left will do something, and then somebody on the right will do something, and then they'll both say, well, on the left they're doing this, and so we have a right, it's okay for us to, do and say bad things and be combative because they're doing and saying bad things on the left and they're combative. And I'm like, no, that's an excuse. It's not responsibility. You need to take responsibility for the words that come out of your mouth and for the tone of your politics. And if you don't have the self-control to control the tone of your politics, that's something you need to look in the mirror and address yourself. As a libertarian, I believe strongly in individual responsibility. You take responsibility for your actions. And what it's going to take is each and every one of us taking responsibility for our own tone. When we get on Facebook or we get on Twitter, we don't have to blast somebody. But unfortunately, that's what gets the coverage is when somebody tweets something derogatory or semi-abusive at somebody, and then somebody will tweet it back, and before too long, you got somebody is firing shots at a congressman, at a baseball practice. It's sad that the climate is piling up to that, but generally, when you have a clash like we do in our culture, you're going to have these conflicts. You're going to have this, this is caused by zero-sum politics, and I know you're familiar with that. The concept that whoever wins, they get it all, and the other side loses it all. We've had this no-compromise politics going on in Washington. This politics where we don't work together, where we don't have productive conversations, where we don't have meaningful relationships with the people that we're dealing with. I mean, I've seen people lose friendships over who they voted for president. Yeah. I'm like, that's just nuts. That's not what America is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right. I have seen that too, or borderline, getting to that point. So we're talking with Mark West. Let's talk just really briefly about the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
You guys, is it easier to get on the ballot than it used to be? Is it hard to get on the ballot? What's it like?
Well, it's difficult right now because we have to do the signature drives, and we're still and we've turned our signatures in. We turned them in mid-July, so we were ahead of the deadline. And I think we turned in 15,000 some odd signatures. So we should, even once they throw out, because normally you lose a percentage of the signatures because they get thrown out, but we should have enough percentage that we did secure our ballot access, and we'll be running another full slate of candidates once we get through our nominating convention in February. But it's difficult and it's costly. See, this is where the law is kind of unfair to parties like ours, because we have to spend a lot of money and time and resources before the election ever starts just to get our ballot access, whereas your Republicans and your Democrats are able to put those resources into candidate recruitment, into building their party, their infrastructure, getting their volunteer bases together. We're having to spend those time and those resources getting signatures just so we can get ballot access. So we start behind every election cycle. And hopefully we can – hopefully through my race for governor, hopefully I'll win this thing. And when I do, we have our ballot access, and we have a governor that's representing the people of Arkansas, and then we don't have to worry about it next campaign.
So you're saying, I mean, right now, as far as ballot access goes, the laws are structured to where, I mean, you just can't be a libertarian and get on the ballot, but you can just be a Republican or Democrat and essentially get on the ballot. I mean, is that what you're saying? Are there what barriers that have they created barriers to protect the two party system?
Yes, they have. I mean, the laws are a barrier that protects the Republicans and Democrats, because new parties have to jump through hurdles that the Republicans and Democrats didn't have to jump through when they established as parties in the state to begin with. And these hurdles, as I said, the ballot access, the signature drives, having to get this much in this many races, or, like last time we had candidates pulling 27, 28% in U.S. House races, but because our presidential candidate didn't play very well in this state, we didn't get to have ballot access, even though we had more candidates on the ballot in more races than the Democrats did. And so we still have to go through this ballot access.
That's nuts.
And it's sad, and it is. It's a way to protect the power in Little Rock. And I call on any members of the Arkansas Congress who want to be stand-up people and give the people of this state the voice they deserve, pass some legislation to make it where we can get this status so we don't have to spend all this money and time and we can have our voice out there for the people here as well.
Yeah, I mean, consent of the governed is good. I mean, why wouldn't people just want an accurate reflection of the way people feel? Mark West, the Libertarian candidate for governor of Arkansas. Hey, just tell people real quick where they can find more information if they want to.
Sure, thanks. We're going to have a website up in the next couple of days. It's markwest4governor.com, and it will be the number 4. So Mark West, the number 4governor.com. You can find me on Facebook. It's Mark West 4Gov. That's Mark West, the number 4GOV. And on Twitter and Instagram, you can also reach me at Mark West 4Gov. So we're trying to keep it all streamlined and simple so people can find us. We're looking for anybody that wants to volunteer and be a part of restoring choice to the people of Arkansas, restoring sanity to Little Rock.
All right, Mark, I appreciate it. Let's talk again soon, okay? Keep me posted.
All right, Paul. Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you, folks. We got to go to break. Back in just a moment.